Good evening, everyone. I hope everyone understands English. That's going to make it a lot better the next 2 hours or something. I'm sorry for being a bit late. We got stuck in traffic here. It's my first time in Sao Paulo, and why does it rain all the time? Like, stop doing that. I'm from Sweden. When I travel somewhere, it's supposed to be warm, okay? So I've traveled a far way to be here. And like I said, I come from Sweden. You need to know that you're welcome any day you want to. Okay? And also, yes, everything you heard is true. And what you also need to know, in Europe, that we have the euro currency in most of the countries in Europe. But they did something interesting. The first time they printed the euro coin is that they decided to leave out the countries that weren't in the European Union. So the way the first version looks is a bit awkward. So the problem now, wherever I travel somewhere, is like, oh, I'm from Sweden. It's like, oh, you're the penis of Europe. But you know, at least we're not Finland on the side, so it could be worse. So I work for Mozilla, and well, basically what we do, and I guess most of you know that, but basically what we do in Mozilla is that we're a non-profit, and our point, our existence is basically making sure that the web is open for everyone and that everyone can take part of it. It's basically just making sure that users are in control and not just big corporations are owning everything. We make a web browser, and we have some good competition there, which is good. Most people ask now when Google Chrome is getting really good, and we have Opera and Safari, and we have, well, we do still have Internet Explorer, is that, you know, oh, that must be a bad thing. But that's a good thing for us. We're winning because the way we want it is the way it is right now. You have a good balance between different web browsers. Everyone's competing. If you just look at web browser performance the last couple of years, and JavaScript performance is getting so much better. And that's what happens when you have competition, and we need that. So it's a good thing for us. We also work with standards. So, you know, apologies to my American friends, but we like things when they're standardized, okay? So, I mean, this is, I'm moving around here now. I have 2 tweets. Like, in this case, 760 yards to a mile. That's not a system, right? That's just a... So, the general idea that we do with Mozilla is that everything we work on is to create standards, and to make sure that the standards are standardizable and interoperable. So it works on all platforms, all operating systems, all kinds of devices, because it's the way it should be. I tweet a lot. I'm better at tweeting than before. I actually tweet remotely useful things nowadays. So about HTML5 and about the open web and APIs and things we're working on. So I wanted to start first with showing a project. How many of you have heard about collusion? No one. Oh well. I showed Fabio in the back just because before I went up here. So basically collusion, it's not a kind of scare propaganda, but the idea with collusion is to make sure that you know when you go to a website what happens, like how much does the website know about you and which other websites get to know more about you as well. So we'll see if the Wi-Fi is working, which it isn't anymore. Okay. Give one more try, otherwise I can show you later. That's the thing, always when you have something that's live. Yeah. So I'll show you later, but basically what it does, it shows you, as you can see in this screen, like if you go to a website here, let's say go to a music website, any kind of website, it also sends all the other websites that get connected to that site. So it could be ad scripts or similar, but it can also be, you know, Facebook, Twitter, anything else. And defined by different colors, you can know if it's a bad website or if it's just another website. So I mean, connecting to other websites could be okay, but it's also about for you to know that what's going on. So it's not like, no, I can't use the internet ever again. It's just more about knowing that if I go here, it's going to share this data with that, and that website. So it's more about the awareness. If you're fine with sharing that data, fantastic, but you should know that it happens.
Is it related to the Panopticlick from EFF?
Sorry, if it's
Panopticlick from EFF. It's a project that researches user tracking by browser fingerprinting. Based on the versions of all your plugins, there are sites that track you all around the internet to know what you're doing and then to generate advertisements.
Right. So it's pretty similar to that, yes. So basically, in this case, it's just an example that goes through the traffic within your web browser, and it sees from, you know, if it makes a request, from which website did that request originate. When I have a connection, if I have a connection, I'll be more than happy to show you later. So in this first talk, I'm generally going to talk about HTML5 and things that are going on there. And the question is, what is HTML5? And if you ask a journalist, they're going to say many, many different things. If you're going to ask a company, they're going to say that they work with HTML5 because people are going to use them then and make more money. And you know, all that's okay if you want to ride that way. But in reality, what it means is two different things. It's semantics, which is basically just having a richer way to write HTML code. And it's about different JavaScript APIs. I think right now it's up to over 100 different specifications with different APIs that you could say is HTML5. So some of them are, some of them aren't. For me personally, it doesn't make that much big of a difference because they're all sort of interconnected. You know, one API is fine, but when you start connecting the different APIs, it's when it becomes interesting, and then you can create amazing things. And of course, there's also building things for any kind of platform you can imagine out there, and any kind of future platform you can imagine as well. So it's the way of, you know, no way, I think at least one Paolo, right? Java programmer, right? So I would say I've done my homework, but someone just told me. So like the general idea with Java, you know, you were supposed to write something once and it was going to run everywhere. It didn't really work that time around. We'll see if it's going to do that this time around. But the general idea here is basically to have something, and looking the way it's going right now with all the major companies supporting it, we've come a long way, and at least it looks promising right now. And so basically, HTML5 is fantastic. It's the second coming. Jesus is back. This is a fan poster from the 80s. So if you're the Star Wars fan club, you can get this poster. But then the internet came along, and now everyone can get this poster. So another controversial thing. It's not really controversial anymore. Personally, I don't think so. Or, you know, I don't think Flash can die for many, 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 many years. And we don't really need that either. I think Flash is going to be around, but it's going to be around for different things, for like video that needs DRM and things like that. And looking what Flash can do right now, we're not there yet with HTML5. And you need to be realistic about that. You can't just say, okay, we hate this, throw it out. But if people are building websites out there, and they need to build experience. If this is the only way to do it, you need to respect that. They need to make a living. And all the things that we see from Flash, I would rather that we take all the good experience from there, like with animations, with performance, and other things, well, performance, but it used to be better, and build something better than that and open. I love to see Flash be open. It's never going to happen. But, you know, rather learn from Flash and see what we can do and implement in our code. So, looking at semantics, how do we make the HTML code richer? We kind of tried with XHTML, especially with XHTML2. Problem was that it wasn't backwards compatible. And it's pretty hard to deploy something to the entire world, like with XHTML2, and just think that everyone's going to upgrade. We all know with people upgrading web browser, it's not really happening. So with semantics, it's basically adding a number more elements to HTML to make it richer. And semantics is basically about structure. I like the Da Vinci approach here, just trying to understand what they actually look like beneath the clothes. So, if we start from the top, if you have a web page and you want to have a character encoding, the way we've done it for a number of years is basically just that we specified, okay, the content type is going to be text HTML, and the character set is going to be UTF-8. So with HTML5, it's about being pragmatic, and not just like, okay, this would be the perfect way to do it if you're trying to get a master's degree at university, fine. But how do web browsers actually read this code? And it turned out they're just reading blah, 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 UTF-8, blah, 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 blah. So let's make it easier. So this works right now in every web browser out there. And that's pretty much what all the changes with to HTML in HTML5 is about. Just to make sure that, okay, it works. It does what you want to in the most simple manner possible. Because, I mean, there's no need for it to be extra complicated if it doesn't make a difference with the result. We're also getting a number of new HTML elements. So Google did a little research for, I think it was 1 billion web pages, just looking at the class names that people were using. And surprisingly, it was, you know, header, footer, navigation, things like that. So why don't we have elements like that? So they started to implement elements like that in the What's Working group, which is started working on the HTML5 specification. And what you need to know here is also that it's not like a header, it's not a one-time thing you use. You can use 15 headers in the same page. It's all about being context specific. So let's say you have a web page with different squares, and each square could be like its own module. And then you have a header for that module, and then you have a section for that module, and a footer for that module, etc. So it's not about placement in the page, it's rather its meaning to that part of the page. And we're also trying to make forms better. And forms are like, I think working with forms on the web is the things that sort of weed you out. Like if you survive working with forms, you're worthy of being a web developer. So you kind of need to go through that kind of rite of passage. So with forms, it's basically everyone is building their own JavaScript for validation or their own JavaScript for date pickers, etc., etc. And that could be a fun exercise if that's your thing. Most people don't like that. So in this case, it's a big red O here, and it's just to give them credit because Opera has by far the best implementation by HTML5 forms right now. WebKit with Chrome and Safari is pretty good, and they're catching up. With Firefox, sensitive, turn off the camera. With Firefox, we haven't implemented that much. We have some of the things, some things we don't. For two main reasons, actually. One of the reasons is that we have all of these new elements, but it's not clearly specified how they're supposed to look or work. It's just more like, in this case, let's say that you want a date picker, for instance, date and time. It's not specified how it's supposed to look and how it's supposed to work. The other problem there is that there's no way to style it. And every engineer is going to argue that there's no need to style it. It's going to look the same all over, and that's the way it should be. And that's, you know, all good and well, but that's not the way it works. People want to brand their controls.